Hello. So let me explain our change of location. We decided to move our filming to our crafting space, and it took a minute to get set up today, but we're going to work all that out. But
We're still having some lighting issues.
A couple, but we'll work it out. Before we get started, I wanted to let you guys know we have chosen a second winner for our giveaway. The first winner did not get in touch with us, sorry to say, but the new winner is Applecrafts, also known as Alicia B. So Alicia B, get in touch with us. We have a lovely package to send you. All right? Thank you. So I am Lisa, and this is AKS Knits and Crochets number 44. And this is...
I'm Cryss. We're not going to stitches be tripping for real? Oh, okay. All right, no, we'll keep working on it.
We'll work on it. But I might put Stitches Be Tripping on a mug because I think it's adorable. I can see myself sipping tea out of that. Okay, so you're getting started today. Tell us what wonders.
It's the same old wonder.
That's okay. It's wonderful. It's a wonderful wonder.
I am still working on the top. But see this? That's square number 1. That's square number 2. That's square number 3. Completed.
What? I didn't know it was finished.
Yeah. So I just started number 4. I'm just starting on my color block, but this is number 4, numero quattro. So we're in the home stretch.
Girl, I believe it now. You were firmly
tired.
You were firmly in the "it's never gonna happen" category.
I was tired. It was a whole lot, but yeah, she's coming along. But I did some mathing.
Oh no.
Yeah, don't say oh no. Math is your friend. I did some mathing because I want to get into the habit of actually recording like a crochet log whereby each crochet session I would write down how long I worked so that when a project is complete, I will know how much time went into it, because I think that will be helpful when I am planning future projects. I can have an idea of how much time it's going to take to complete things. So I just timed, because I hadn't been doing that all along. Lisa. She's still adjusting. Okay, we have lighting issues, and she's adjusting the ring light on her side.
I was doing it unobtrusively.
And I'm like, not as unobtrusively as you think. Okay.
Moving on.
I haven't been logging my time from the beginning of this project. So what I did is I just recorded how long it took me to do 2 rows, because I'm doing a 2-row pattern repeat. And then I extrapolated so that I could guesstimate how much, estimate, I have numbers. So estimate how much time I'm spending on each square. Turns out each square is taking just under 14 hours. Remember, lace weight, 2.25 millimeter hook. And honestly, I had no idea that things took that long. If you'd asked me how long I thought I'd been working on it, I would say about 25, 30 hours, like would be my total. Turns out, so for all 4 squares, my estimate is about 55.5 hours. And then you don't have to sew it together, weave in ends, do my shoulder straps. So I'm saying about 60 hours will have gone into this top when it's done. And on the one hand, I wish I didn't know that. But on the other hand, I'm glad that I do. I think that will be useful for me in the future. And it's also kind of, I feel like I used to work just like nonstop, just crochet till my arm like was sore. And I had to pull back and make myself like take breaks. And I've gotten so much better. I have a lot more discipline now around stopping after a reasonable amount of time. But I hadn't been up to now, I haven't been like going back to my work. Some days I would, I'd do like another session. Some days I wouldn't. And so I realized that I'm not putting the number of hours per day that I would like to into each crochet project. Because when I talk about producing more, I can. I just need to do a few more hours each day. So my goal is to do about 4 hours a day of actual stitching, but not all at once.
Yeah.
Break that up into 2 or 3 different sessions. That's totally doable in terms of my schedule and in terms of what my arm can handle. And had I done that, for instance, with this top, it would have taken me about 2 weeks to finish it. So I realized how not being more disciplined with my time is slowing me down, and that I can get to my production goal just by managing my time better. And so doing that math was much more informative for me than just telling me the number of hours I was putting into an individual project. And I'm very happy about that. So now I can start planning my crochet time a little bit better so that I can be more efficient. So I didn't want to know that this was taking 60 hours, but I'm glad that I do. And because I know that, she now has a name. She is the overtime top because she took more than 40 hours.
I think she didn't when she did.
And so, because my project names usually have like a little story that involves, what went on while I was making it. So things usually don't get a name until I've made them or until I'm close to the end. So I just came up with the name and that number was the reason why. I'm also just coming up with a system because I want to log the hours and I want to make sure that I know which project I was working on when I write it in my book. I just came up with a very simple way to designate each project until it gets a name. So it's just the year that I made it and the ordinal position in my project queue. So this is going, if you count my 2 handbags, this is the 9th project I've made for the year. So until she had her name, she was just 2022-09. And when I'm logging it, I can just write that and I'll know which project that is until, I finally name it. So that's just a hint. If you want to do your logging of projects and you don't give things a name or you don't want to give things a name, you can just make up something just informational about it that will help you remember which project it was.
Whoa.
I had no idea that a little bit of mathing, though, would really inform my workflow the way it did.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Math is your friend.
I am a math-based person.
I'm not. I find mathing, it comes with some trepidation. It does. It comes with some trepidation. Are you done?
Yeah.
All right. I have a finished object. I'm just like...
She has a finished object.
So this is my second outline tank. She hasn't been blocked yet. So what I did was I added a little bit of embroidery to the areas where there are drop stitches. So my embroidery happens all around. I should have taken a good picture of this. But yeah, it's really just a subtle little thing. It's just a little line.
What is that?
That is also Trailhead Yarns, but it's their embroidery thread.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm so happy with how it came out. I'm going to be taking pictures of it in outfit, and it fits great. It absolutely fits great.
It fits perfectly. Because I was dubious, she was dubious.
Mom was dubious. We're all dubious.
We all went through it with the last version. And before she dropped the stitches, y'all didn't see it before. Before she dropped the stitches, it looked small.
It did.
And so when she finished the actual stitching and showed it to me, I was like, oh.
I thought that smile looked a little scary. Like, oh, who's going to tell her?
But no, her mathing.
It did.
Her mathing worked out perfectly. And so when she dropped the stitches, it fit just right.
So I want to tell you guys about the mathing. And this is from a mathphobe. So if you're also a mathphobe, you can do it. You can do it. So what I did was I made a swatch. Now, you guys know I like a sizable swatch. So this swatch is was about 8 inches before I dropped the stitches. It's almost a foot when I'm done when I drop the stitches. So what went wrong with my first swatch was that I didn't add drop stitches to it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're gonna do a project that has some sort of special stitch, I encourage you to do that 4-inch swatch I tell you about if you feel like it. But do a swatch that also includes whatever special stitches or techniques that is in the thing, and use that to base your calculations on. Now, my calculations were super important because not only was I not using the the same yarn size, I was also not using the same needle size as the pattern called for. So I just had to recalibrate it for me. So I dropped stitches just like they would be dropped in the pattern. And then I measured the swatch. I measured the swatch after I washed it and blocked it to see what the basic gauge is. Then I measured it. I also measured it unblocked. Then I dropped the stitches and measured it again. And the gauge I got after I dropped the stitches was what I knit to. And it happened to coincide with the smallest size of that was written into the pattern. So I really didn't have to alter the pattern itself. I just used the numbers.
And you did a total number of 8 drop stitches. So your swatch,
yeah,
she made sure to drop 8 stitches exactly.
Yeah, because 8 stitches were dropped in the pattern. So I will confess, while I was actually knitting, the top looked a little small to me too. I was like, girl.
I was like, oh no,
you know, this is cotton. This ain't gonna stretch. But I had to just have faith
in
the math. I had checked it. I had double checked it, so that I was assured that the numbers were correct. Although I was tempted to rip it out. I was like, girl, this looks too small. Rip it out. But I was like, no. I went back and I reconfirmed my math. And after I dropped the first stitch, I was like, oh yeah, this bad boy grows. And by the time I dropped the last stitch, I just slipped it on, and she just fit just fine. So don't be scared to change up the yarn and change up the needle size. It'll more than likely work out for you. But you really do have to know your gauge and trust your numbers. So now my swatch came in handy again because I wanted to add just a little embellishment to the top. And I had what happened was I had fallen in love with the embroidery floss that Trailheads Yarn was selling. I
was wondering why she was buying embroidery floss.
They had first of all, they had the cutest little setup for it. They sell one package where it's a mix of colors, and it comes in this cute little tray, and they're all on little bobbins. And then they sold skeins of embroidery floss that they called acorns. I couldn't leave the acorn behind. There was just no way.
When marketing works on your brain.
It works. It works. So I bought one acorn, and the acorn has about 20 yards of thread on it. So I was able to try out various configurations of embroidery to put on my top. I didn't like any of these.
I was like, but you didn't do those. Okay.
No, I didn't. And I ended up not liking any of these. But I really improved my duplicate stitch. Look at the first one. Look at the mess the back is. And by the time I got to the last one, I was like, oh yeah, I can work that duplicate stitch. I pulled out this book I have, and I meant to bring it with me, but I forgot. It's called Splendid Embellishments. And I really liked what she had done, the various ways she had showed how to include embroidery into your general knitting. And that's what made me think what happened with most of these was they felt too elaborate for what was going on in the top. And I just wanted something that would sort of reinforce the clean kind of modern vibe of the top. And I thought just a little stitching would do the trick. And I did it on all of the panels. So each one just has that little pop of color, like little sparkles. So then I weighed this thing when I was done with it. It weighs about 229 grams. So I used about 2 skeins of, actually no, 2 and about a quarter skein of the Universal Cotton Supreme DK. And I only had that 1 skein of Tencel that was 800 yards. And I still have an untouched, full skein of the 2 yarns together. So I'm going to figure out something to do with that.
How about a bag?
I was thinking about that.
Or a parasol.
Or a parasol. I don't have enough for a parasol, but I can swing a bag. But it feels wonderful. If you're ever interested in doing something for summer, hold some Tencel with your cotton. It just feels great. And it's so drapey and soft.
So are you still planning to make back the blue one?
Yeah. I'm going to crank out the blue one. Now that I know that my numbers will work. Because that was the other thing. I was, how you get a little trigger shy if your numbers don't work out the first time. You're like, oh. But since I was able to diagnose what the problem was, the fix worked.
Yeah, it's very different when you don't know why it went wrong.
Yeah.
It's just you, a puddle of yarn, and your tears.
That's kind of like what it felt like. Yes. It's me, my puddle of yarn, and my tears. So now I have swatches, right? But I'll talk to you about that in a minute. But I have swatches.
You have more swatches?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
I have swatches. But go forth.
So no, this is not first fall. The gray top.
Yeah, gray top is first fall.
Okay. Speaking of first fall. I had said I was making my cocoon shrug, and I will be making my cocoon shrug. That's definitely solidly on the queue, but it won't be my next make because it's gonna take a bit longer. But I have been thinking about making a shawl for a while, just because I've made several shawls, but I wear my shawls. I want to be very clear; they are in the wardrobe. I accessorize with them, but I don't have any that I can wear. I have one that I can wear in the summer. Let me tell you. I did that thing where it was like, oh, why don't you buy some colors of yarn that you don't usually buy? So I buy this bright yellow and a bright pink to make one shawl with. Yellow and pink. So I made the shawl. It's cotton, and I made the shawl. And I've actually even worn the shawl, but I don't like the shawl. So that is my only summer shawl. I'm thinking I might want to get into summer shawls because it could offer, sun protection.
Yeah.
So I might do some summer shawls. That one though. But now with fall coming up, I want to get back on my shawl game. And it just so happens from the grab bags, there was this yarn that I liked very, 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 very much. However, it's 50 wool and 50 acrylic. So I did not want to make a garment with it. Instead, I will make an accessory. But this is Lanagato Eden. And first of all, it's purple, But it's purple. A few years ago, purple and this light green color was a power combo. Everyone was doing it. All over your home decor. Yeah. I was about purple and blue. I couldn't find purple and blue anything that saved my life. It was all about purple and green. But I think purple and blue is a great combination. It's got a little bit of teal in it. It's got a little bit of pink in it. I absolutely love these colors. So I was like, even though it's got this acrylic in it, I want to use it because I think it's just really beautiful. So I'm going to be making kind of like a shawly thing. And I have some inspo pictures. So the first one, that is from Expression Fiber Arts. I often take pictures of my television. They won't be good pictures, but I take pictures from my television when I see a cute idea. So that is, oh no, that's a knit shawl, but she does both crochet and knitting tutorials. But what I want to point out is that on her extended arm, she has seamed that. So so she's basically done one long rectangle, folded it in half, left an opening for the neck, but then seamed from the shoulder down the length of the arm. And it looks like she did it on the top and the bottom, because if you look at the picture on the left, it's in the other direction. So that blue, solid blue stripe is at the top in one picture, but it's at the bottom in the other picture. So she's also designed it to be worn either way, which I think is very cute. So that was the first thing I saw. And then when I went on my pattern haul at Joann, I saw this. Now this is very much the same thing. It's folded in half. It's seamed at that shoulder, except they don't seam it all the way down. Instead, they leave it open. So you've got the split. Your arm can come out and you get this cute like trailing thing. And seeing two of those, that same idea, like back to back, it was just like, boom, got to make something like this. So when I saw this yarn, I was like, that's what I'm going to use it for, because I want to make a shawl. I have a cute idea. This is a very beautiful color, and I think it's going to look really good with blue jeans.
Oh, yeah.
So that's what I was making. I am still deciding like how long, because the second one, you know, it goes down past her knees. The first one, it just goes down arm length. I'm still deciding what length I want to do and whether or not I'm going to seam it. I don't think I'm going to seam it. I think I'm going to leave mine open, but I don't know how long I'm going to make it. So I might need to add some yarn to this. So I have a few options here. So this is a skein of 100 Ravens AKS. I don't know. That's the name of the base, and the color is called Coventry Carol. So that's an option. I think that looks really good, actually. And then I was thinking, well, what if I just did not hold it with mohair, but actually just do a mohair section? And so I have some of a light purple mohair, and then I also have the pink. And I feel like the pink is what's speaking to me, honestly.
That would be nice.
So one of these three is going to be not held with, but I'm going to do like some sort of color blocking with this. And that is going to be my cute fall accessory. I'm so excited. I think it's going to be so pretty. I have no ideas right now as far as like a stitch pattern or what I want to do. I think I want to, like, if I use the mohair, like do 2 different stitch patterns, one with the mohair and one with this striped yarn.
Yeah.
We'll see. But I haven't like firmed up my plans yet because I'm still just trying to finish the overtime top. But
is it going to have a hood?
No, not hood. It's just going to be
flowing.
Yes.
Okay. I like
what I was thinking was to do most of like the center part of the body with this and then make the trailing yarn the mohair, so that the mohair is what hangs down the side.
And it will float. Yeah.
So that's the current thought, but you know, at 2 a.m, ideas come to you, so we'll see. But yeah, so that's actually going to be my first fall project.
I have a thought with the color blocking. Maybe you could do this as a center part on the front, the other one is a center part on the back, and have the 2 tied together with the mohair.
I want them to be the same front and back though.
Because I'm thinking you could wear it either way then.
I could wear it either way. I don't know.
We'll see. We'll see what she does. It's going to be an adventure.
Right.
Definitely an adventure.
So that's technically what's going to be my first fall make. And then I will be jumping right into my oversized cocoon shrug because I really, 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 really want to make it. Like I said, I made one before out of cotton. It's terrible. So I do need to replace it.
Did you work out how you're going to accomplish the plaid?
Not yet, because I haven't done any swatching. I've been trying to put all my time into this one project. Now that I'm on the last square, I can start about like maybe doing some swatches for my next project.
Right.
But I really do like to put all my crochet time into one project at a time.
Okay. I have been working on my nymphola top, my nymphola tee. Where are you, nymphola? So actually, I tied on my second ball of yarn today. I have about 9.5 inches of the back finished. As you see, there's my lifeline. And I am beading as I go. And now that there's more beads, you see I can see them now?
Yeah, I still think they're subtle, but
that's what I wanted though. I didn't want a lot of bling bling. I wanted something that would just twinkle and catch the light. And it's doing just that. I'm like, twinkle. There I go. I'm twinkling.
Okay.
But there she is. I love the lace. It has gotten to be, now the rows are all familiar.
Mm-hmm.
I can catch any little mistake. Like, let's say I was paying a little too much attention to the TV. If I forgot to do a yarn over or something, I can catch a mistake right away. Primarily because I am counting my stitches. So I have the magic number that's supposed to be between my stitch markers. If I don't have that number, something has gone awry. Mm-hmm. And I can go right back to it. But so far, so good. I'm very happy. I'm on track. It has the first complete skein that I knitted through gave me 9.5 inches of the back. So this second skein will give me the next 9.5 inches or so. That'll be 18 inches. It's supposed to be, I think, 21 inches long. And I have 5 skeins. So the little excess that I need will come out of that 5th skein. So now I'm like completely positive that I have enough.
It doesn't have sleeves?
No. I told you I did everything I could to make sure I could get this done in the amount of time I needed. This is a t-shirt. Give myself and that's what you gotta do. Give yourself every advantage. No, I'm not gonna be on Sleeve Island sweating.
Okay, sweetie.
Okay. But that's where I'm at. So far, I really like this pattern, and I really enjoyed the other pattern I did out of Noro magazine. The only thing, I didn't have to really do any altering. As always, I'm not using the yarn that they suggested in the pattern. My yarn is slightly, let me see, I think theirs was a 4, but my 4 and their 4 was fairly similar. Mine actually knits up at a slightly larger gauge. So theirs knitted up at 4 to 5 stitches per inch. Mine knitted up at 4.5 to 5.5 stitches per inch. So mine is a smidgen larger. And I think I'm using the same needle sizes, I think. But what I did want to share was this. What I am doing, and I've started to do it with the outline tank. I'm copying my pattern out of whatever source I'm getting it from, and I am customizing it for the most part, so that mostly just my numbers are on it. And I really did it for the outline tank because the numbers were completely different, and I didn't want to have like 7 numbers, rolling around. I got this folder. We were just at Five Below. And now I have a place, because you know what? I'm terrible at loose pieces of paper. I don't know how people can do it. I've seen people, they can, however long that project goes, they keep those loose pieces of paper. I'm that person who has in the past lost a sheet of her pattern, not known it, and just gone on knitting. And surprise, surprise, that project didn't come out so good.
You didn't just keep it in the project bag? Because when I work from books, I usually photocopy the patterns so that I can make any notes or whatever. And I would just fold the paper and stick it in the project.
Yeah, ordinarily I do.
Okay.
But apparently that one time it did work out. So I have been like, a little bit more vigilant ever since. Just a little bit more. And I find that binding it up in one of these type of folders that has a little, whatchamacallit, the little grommets. It's not an Uber folder, but
got all kinds of pockets and a little clear thing.
Yeah, but that way, if I have, I could even put a couple of stitch markers in here.
Yeah, because
if I need to use a needle or something, I can put it in here. It was $2.99, and for $2.99, they're reusable because it's vinyl. So the next project, I'm just pop this out of here and pop the next project in, and that'll be great. And the other thing I've been doing is I have a little accessory box with all the things I need to work on this particular top. So I'm beading as I go. So that means when I finish a repeat, I add the beads to it and keep on keeping on, because these beads were too small to get slipped onto the yarn. So I have my box with my beads. I have my thread, my needle threader, because, you know, I'm at that age. I can't see.
This box, the brand is Art Bin, and it's very secure because I just dropped it today and no beads.
You dropped my box? Oh my God.
So this is a good box. I didn't even know. For it.
I didn't even know. Okay.
I was like, it was fine.
All right. Well then, the things you find out while you're doing the podcast. The nice thing too is I can make little sections at will. So these come out and you can just organize it to be what you need. So I keep my pencil in here. Also, I have been using this little fellow. I've had it for several years and I was like, oh, this is crap. It doesn't work. You see how it has this curved side and a nice flat side that you assume that's what you put down on the paper? If you put this flat side down on the paper, you can't really see anything. Everything you see through it becomes distorted. I just found out after having this for like years and not really using it that you turn it over and lay it on the paper with the curved side down on the paper. And then amazingly, it highlights the line that you're on in your chart. So
you're saying that if you use it the way it was intended, it works?
Yes.
Wild.
Yes, it's crazy. It's crazy how that works out. So in case anybody out there bought one of these and thought, oh, well, I just wasted my money on that. No, it's great. It's absolutely wonderful. It highlights the line you're on. And I actually like it better than using tape, because the tape you have to keep picking up and putting down. Mm-hmm. And this, you just slide it along as you go. So there you go. I don't know what it's called because I've had it for years and the packaging has long since been. If you see one at the store, put the curved side down on the paper. But that's where I'm at. I'm close to the halfway mark on the back, and we're just at week 2 of the first fall mal. Hashtag first fall mal 2022.
That was like so smooth.
So smooth.
I don't even notice you putting that in there. Okay.
So if you're going to play along with us, please use hashtag first fall mal 2022 on all of the social media platforms. And I feel really good about my progress for week 2. I'm like, wow, go me. What else you got?
That's it. Yeah, no, one project at a time.
Well, I'm going to take on a small project. I have a bunch of swatches.
Wait a minute, what small project? Your small project is your socks.
I have a bunch of swatches from projects that I've been working on, right? And I usually just lose my swatches. I'm going to just tell the truth. I have the swatch for a while. I'm keeping up with it while I'm actually working on the thing. And then I lose my swatches. But I saw this video from a sewist. And she had the best idea. Apparently sewists do this. She made a swatch book. Mm-hmm. And I am going to start keeping my swatches in a swatch book. I thought it was the most practical idea. Like for me, I hardly ever use the yarn that's called for in the thing. And I have a tendency to enjoy combining different yarns to make my own custom textiles. Because it turns out that's what I'm doing. I'm making my own custom textiles. Who knew? What you do in your swatch book is you keep the actual swatch. And you can write down what it is, what it's made of, how to wash it, whether or not, its characteristics, whether or not it drapes, does it stretch, does it bias, what have you. And over time, you'll build up a little personal compendium of fibers that you know how to use. You can even keep a list of what you've made with it to see, what might this be good for. And then when you're out shopping for yarn and you run into something with similar characteristics, you can be more assured in your choices when you decide, let me buy this yarn that I've never used before because I think it'll work similar to this one that I know very well. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a swatch book to store my swatches in and keep a record of what I've been using and how I've been using it. I think that's going to really inform my making, and it's going to make it easier for me to make better choices about what type of yarn I want to buy. That's it. That's going to be my little project.
How are you going to put them in the book?
So with fabric swatches, all they do is they use double-sided tape and stick it to the page. But these are larger and heavier. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take cardstock and punch a hole in it and just tie it onto the page. And the cardstock should support the weight of the swatch. And because the swatch will be in a book, the whole thing will be supported. And I'll just make up a little form so that they're uniform. I can say, okay, it was this particular yarn, what have you. What, you're looking at
it's mad official.
But I'm thinking, just how you worked on your time and, taking the time to figure out how long it actually takes you to do a project informs so much about your work. When I saw this video, and I don't remember what video it was, but I will put it in the description bar so you can go check out the YouTuber who did it. I was like, oh my gosh, I could see. And what happened was she did it because she went to fashion school and it was like a requirement. She had to really, really know the various characteristics of the different fibers of the different fabrics. But when she was explaining why you would do it, I was like, oh yeah, knitters and crocheters could use that too. Holy snap. What? So, and I think I will make a video about how to put one together as a knitter or a crocheter. Even though it's a little official.
I don't think I'm gonna get that deep up in it just yet. I'm still working on my time.
Yeah, I think you're pretty deep. You're pretty deep up in stuff already. I gotta tell you.
What else you got over?
Oh, I just wanted to make sure I got everything. This is the folder with the pattern for the outline tee.
You didn't buy different colors? That would drive me nuts.
No, it doesn't matter because these are not going to live in here permanently or anything.
I know, but because you work on multiple projects at a time, I would want to keep them.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I wish I had thought of that.
Oh my god! Because if you only have the one, it doesn't matter what color it is.
Right.
Oh, mercy. Okay. All right, moving on.
So, this was the one where I actually copied the pattern. Actually, I copied and pasted the pattern into my own document, and then I changed the numbers to match the numbers I needed. And that, you know what?
You do so much with the pattern before you start working on it. It's like crazy.
You know what, though? It made it so much easier to work with it after it was done. And then it really didn't, I'm used to copy and pasting things. It didn't take all that much time actually to do it. And then it removed any extraneous information that I didn't need. Like this is printed like really light in gray because I had a little moment about, oh, should I use this one or should I use that one? But then I was like, you know what? I don't think I need to use this because there was one set of instructions for sizes extra small through large, and then another set of instructions for sizes 1X through 5X.
And yours ended up being the 1X?
Well,
the instructions you were following.
The instructions I was following actually worked out to be, I believe it was like the small. Oh. It was a small.
Oh my god!
For the number of stitches that I had, it equated to the small. But that's the other thing. You can't really go by the term small, medium, large.
Yeah, but because, for instance, we're starting chain for us. Your cast on is a certain number of stitches.
Right.
How do you know which one?
And by that number, well, I calculated the number of stitches by the number of inches I needed multiplied by my gauge.
Okay.
So once I had that number, let's say that number was 120, I looked at the pattern and saw which one came closest to 120. And lo and behold, there was a size that was 120.
Okay.
But that size equated to like small. So I can't really worry about small, medium, large because the yarn I was using was not
No, I
fingering. Yeah.
understand. I'm just saying you still need to know how many stitches.
Yeah, but that's how I
So-
figured out how many stitches cast on. And then I was able to just change to
I
my
feel like
number.
you're doing this weird hybrid thing where you're customizing so much. You're like partly we're following a pattern and partly designing on your own.
I think I'm less designing on my own than really super customizing patterns, because I am following. I'm not really changing anything in the pattern, so it looks just like the ones that are in the picture, but except for like, little details like the little embroidery I added to it. But that way I can have it exactly the size I wanted. And the only thing I would say I did not like about how this pattern looked in the pictures of what other people did was that nobody took into account the drop stitches.
Mhm.
So everybody was a little bit floppy.
Mhm.
And mine's not floppy.
Well,
Because
not your second one.
not the second one. The first one was a fishnet. Mine's not floppy because I had a swatch with the drop stitches, and I was able to calculate based on that.
Now, in the pattern, did they tell you to drop the stitches in your swatch?
No,
Mm.
no. I wish they had. I think that would be something that would be useful, especially if you don't
might want to send a note to the designer and maybe she'll update the pattern to include that instruction because it was so useful for you.
You know what? I can email her. I can send her an email and just drop her a little note. Perhaps you want, because she did have a very helpful note section in the pattern, and she does have a couple of videos online. If there are things that people said they were confused about. But mine doesn't fit the way other people's fit.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, they didn't take into account them drop stitches. But that's about it for moi. Do you want to talk about what you've been reading?
Oh, are we doing that? Oh, okay.
Oh, I can talk about what I've been reading.
Okay.
I've been reading something. It was so good. Oh my God.
Where'd you get it, Lisa?
Crystal went to the library one day and she brought home some books, and I was like, oh.
And she's just been reading from my pile of books.
I really have.
Oh, word?
It's like having a book concierge.
You see now? That's why I have the hands going to the library next time. Yeah. She doesn't actually have a book concierge.
I don't. But it was nice like, pretending.
Yeah.
Anyway, this book is called A Light from Uncommon Stars. Let me hold that up so you guys can see. Oh, all our lights are reflecting in it. While we remain in semi-darkness. And it's by an author called Rika
Aoki.
Okay, I'm sorry. Rika Aoki. I'm going to try to pronounce her name properly. So far, well, I finished it this morning, as a matter of fact. I absolutely love this book. It has an element of magical realism. It has, it really kind of ticked all of my boxes because I love fantasy. I love science fiction. I love magical realism. And this book combines all three so gracefully that different things are happening that you don't expect to happen in the same book, but it's okay. And it got me thinking about the first kind of urban fantasy I read, because it's kind of urban fantasy too. There was this book called The Last Defenders of Camelot that I ran across in the library, and it was a retelling. It wasn't even a retelling, but it was like King Merlin woke up and it's 20th century and he's trapped in a city. And it gave me a taste for that type of book. And like I said, it ticked all my boxes. So basically, it is about a violinist who has sold her soul, and part of her deal was that she has to deliver 7 souls to hell over the course of 49 years. And she is in the last 6 months of the 49th year of the deal. And she's looking for a student. And then she finds the student and so many other things. And the student is both more than she ever expected and nothing she ever expected. And we go through their journey together. And it's kind of wonderful.
And it's a standalone? It's not a series?
Yeah, it's a standalone. And like I said, it's just combined so many unexpected things into this graceful structure that stands all by itself. It was, like I said, it was a really great read. So if you get a minute and you're looking for something to read, how do I say this again?
Rika Aoki.
Check out Light from Uncommon Stars by Rika Aoki.
I don't have my book with me. I'm still reading. It is, what's it called? Oh, Son of the Storm by, I don't trust my pronunciation, but Sui Davies Okunboa. And it is a fantasy novel. It's about this country called Bassa that's very like xenophobic, and they have a very strict caste system. And so the main character, Danso, he is actually from two different castes because his father was from the highest caste, which is the Idu, and his mother was an immigrant. So, you know, immigrants are never allowed like full citizenship, and it actually kind of derailed his father's career, the fact that he ended up marrying an immigrant. But because Danso is so smart, he was able to become a scholar. He's training to be a scholar. He's a novitiate. And he is very unsatisfied with his life in every way. He's engaged, but, you know, it's not really a love match. And he knows there's more, like this country, Bassa, has really like sanitized their history. And he knows there's more to the outside world than he's being told. And he actually gets into a little bit of trouble because he reads like a secret codex that contain things that basically the country doesn't even want to talk about the fact that they happened. But his thirst for knowledge, for answers, because even there was a war some years ago, and his mother disappeared. And his father will not talk. He doesn't even know his mother's name. His father won't talk about her. Mom never existed as far as everyone else is concerned, but he wants answers. And he knows that those answers are outside of Bassa, but Bassa has just slammed their borders shut because they're looking for a foreign intruder. And of course, his paths cross with that of the intruder, and he is now beginning his search for answers. It was a slow start. It's a longer book. It's a little over 400 pages. And I would say there's a prologue that gives you like a little bit of a hint of what's to come. But I would say the story doesn't really kick off till like maybe page 80 or so. There is a lot of like character building, which I did like. I felt like the things we were being told about the characters were necessary. We needed to know a little bit about their personalities, and we learned about their personalities by seeing how they handled specific situations. And so I do think it was well done, but you know, I don't necessarily have the patience for that. I like the action to jump off quickly, but I would say it was worth the wait. So far, the story is still moving at a very deliberate pace, I would say, but I still don't feel like my time's being wasted. Mm-hmm. Even if a scene, you know, you get one little nugget out of it, I kind of trust this author to make those nuggets useful. So I was thinking about DNFing, but now I'm going to rock with it. I'm going to finish it. I believe it is the first in a series. Mm-hmm. So the last book I read was also the first in the series, and it just kind of stopped. It's just like we got really very little out of the story, like, you know, plot wise. It was a lot of character stuff. This one, I'm thinking there's going to be a little bit more like plot to it. I'm hoping this will have an actual like conclusion on its own before we jump into the next book, because I've been fooled before. But so far I'm actually quite enjoying it.
So do you find that they have told you enough story to make you want to continue and get to the second?
I want to know what the deal is with his mother too.
Okay.
Because this person that he encounters is from what's called the Nameless Islands, because like I said, they've sanitized the history. They don't even talk about the fact that these islands exist. But his mother is from another island. So we don't know what the deal is with where she's from. We don't know if she's gone back there. We don't know if she's dead or alive. So I find that I very much want to know what his mother's story is and how it's connecting to current events. And we're told on the back of the book that Danso encounters a kind of magic that had fallen into myth. People don't believe it ever really existed. In fact, their last emperor, he's called the Manic Emperor. He was the one who was really like exploring this kind of magic, and they've kind of just, they don't talk about him, and that was the codex that Danso was reading. Yes. So, I'm wondering if like his mother's people have some other kind of magic, or if she did this kind of magic, or I'm wondering how his mother's story is connecting to these events, and I feel like it's going to be something big. Okay. So, yeah, I do want to know what's going to happen.
Nice. That's kind of how Light from Uncommon Stars worked, because it was like there are 4 main storylines. They all get different amounts of time given to them, but in the end, they all come together. And I like when a book is constructed like that.
Now, one thing, this is a little thing for me. It's one of those books where they're very short chapters, and each chapter is from a different character's perspective. I blame George Martin for that. He made that popular. I'm not saying he's the first person to do it, but he made it very popular, and that just became a thing in fantasy afterwards. And I don't like having multiple main characters. Like, I feel like you have a couple of mains, and then you have your supporting cast, and that's just the structure that I'm used to. So I hate that we're constantly shifting. We're changing locations, we're following different people, and now like we've just gotten another character who is now getting his own chapters. So now we're getting more points of view. And
how do you feel like the story was divided, though? Was it appropriate amounts of time spent with each character when they were in the spotlight?
I felt like each chapter is a good length, but I did feel like sometimes people got too many chapters.
Yeah.
Like, there's a character, he's Danso's second, Zach. He's his servant, basically. But, he's like his body man, his guard, he jack of all trades. And he had one chapter, and now he and Danso are on the road, let's say. And his chapter just basically set up that he had this relationship with this woman he's very much in love with. He wants to marry her, but he needs to go through their immigration system so he can improve his status before he gets married. And so now that he is away from her, we are aware of what he's missing. He's pining for her. He's upset, thinking that the life he had planned, which would have included this woman, may never happen now because of what he and Danso are currently doing. Did we need that chapter with Zach? No. It tells us a little bit more about Zach. It fleshes Zach out a little bit, but Zach isn't terribly important. So did he need his own chapter? With his, it was just him having an assignation with his girlfriend. They did talk about politics a little bit, so we got to see a couple of different immigrant views. Some are like really throwing themselves, like Zach, are really throwing themselves into the assimilation efforts because he thinks that'll improve his status. His girlfriend is still very skeptical of the entire like case system and not understanding why they have to go through this, even though they are working hard and contributing to the society. Again, it's a little bit of interesting backstory. Was it absolutely necessary? No. But, it doesn't cause any harm. It's a few more pages to read. So I feel like, there have been too many chapters sometimes. And Zach had that one chapter. It was one too many. But, yeah, I could have done some editing with this book. Let's just say. I could have done some editing with this book. But it's pretty much staying on course. So
I really enjoyed I don't know why, Life from Uncommon Stars, but that was the thing. I felt like the writing was really economical and the writer's touch was very light. So like I said, although we do have 4 characters that we end up seeing viewpoints of, the writer gave everybody the appropriate amount of time. So the 4th character that we got viewpoints from, she had the least time on stage. The first, I knew who exactly the lead was. I knew who the second lead was. I knew who the most important sub-character was. And that D story, it was interesting. and it contributed. So it was like that person's story contributed to the overall story arc, rather than that, us being focused a lot on that character.
Was that fourth character introduced? Was it early on or
after the main three characters?
Because like there's a character who it was another character's second, and he just got his first, point of view chapter. But the book is divided into like three, large sections, and he didn't have any point of view chapters in the whole first section.
Oh,
and now in section 2, he's popping up. But I mean, he was given a specific task, so now we're following him on this task, and I guess that's why we're getting his point of view right now. But it's like when you use this particular structure, you can be a little indulgent. I think a little self-indulgent, and just start giving people chapters that ain't need chapters on your night. So I'm still a little like, okay, we could have trimmed a little fat here, but like I said, I want to know what happened to this boy's mama.
But that's what you're interested in, and she's nowhere to be seen.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because I'm like, why we don't how he don't know his own mother's name? Like, how is the band that that's strict?
Deep. That's deep.
So
yeah. That's something.
But yeah, that's what I'm reading right now.
Are you watching anything?
I'm not watching anything. Well, I've been watching planner videos.
Yes.
I have like a series I'm watching.
She's going deep into planner land.
Because I didn't understand what we were doing with the stickers. So I decided I would watch videos until I understood what we were doing with the stickers. And I've been watching videos, and I feel I know what we're doing with the stickers. I don't feel like I understand what we're doing with the stickers. But people do, spread. So like there's a type of planner, it's called a happy planner. It's a big calendar book, and people do spread. So on like 2 pages together will make up a week's calendar, and they adorn the page with stickers before they do any planning or anything. And I didn't understand why we were doing that. Like, how do you know where you want to place the stickers if you haven't written anything in yet? But apparently you're just sticking the stickers to stick the stickers.
Yes.
And once you accept that, it's like, oh, okay. I thought the stickers were a bit more functional, but they're not. They're cute. That's what it is. I'm still marveling that people can like sustain whole channels of them sticking stickers on paper. But it's a thing. It's a thing. Is.
I finished my outline tank with a marathon of the Sandman. So I have been a Sandman fan for about a decade. I actually ran across one of the books at the library. We have a theme at the library, and I glomped them up as fast as I could. And when they said they were making a series, I was like, yes, give me Sandman.
I'm reading them now. I'm not as enchanted with them as she is.
Really? Oh, wow. Do you kind of hate the Sandman?
And you know what? It's not the Sandman. It's a very surrealist kind of story.
Yes, and I love surrealism.
I find I don't have the patience for that. I like things to be a little bit more concrete. Like the very first book. So Morpheus, he was imprisoned. And when he is released from his imprisonment, he is looking for his 3 like objects of power that he possessed. And so that was a very concrete goal. Yes. And him going after each thing, that totally made sense to me. So I did like book 1. Plus, we also saw a little bit of the fallout of him being in prison, how it was affecting people in the world at large because he wasn't able to do his Sandman gig.
Right.
So book 1, like, boom, got it. But book 3 just did its own thing. It didn't even seem to be related to Morpheus's main story. Book 4, we get back to Morpheus. He has to go back to hell and settle up some stuff with Lucifer. But nothing seemed as like taut as that first book. Yeah. So, and it's like 12 books in the series. Yeah. They're quick reads, they're graphic novels. So I've been like reading them in between like my other books. But
well, the series, the first season of the series, hopefully we'll get a season 2, focuses on the first book. So they're telling the story of the first book.
But there's other stuff in there because the vortex.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't encountered that yet. So I'm on book 4 of 12. I haven't encountered the concept of the vortex yet.
Yeah.
And so that must come from later in the series,
Yeah.
but it's still in season 1. So
Yeah.
they're telling the story of the first book, but there's some other stuff too.
I was really surprised at how faithful they stayed
Mm-hmm.
to. I mean, it's almost beat for beat what happened in the
and
books.
like the issues between Morpheus and Desire.
Yeah.
Again, that's been a little accelerated because
Yes.
that wasn't present in book 1. We get that more in later books.
Yes.
So it season 1 is a little bit of a mishmash. Its main
thrust
is him getting back these objects of power. But
actually he completes the quest in the series and then they moved on. So they might have moved on into the second.
Yeah.
But so far, I mean, I loved it. I'm definitely here for season 2. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that there will be a season 2 because I powered through the rest of my outline tank and I got a good bit done on my Nymphala. So thank you very much, Sandman. But I think that's it for me today.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us. Remember, if you want to join the first fall make along, there's still time. We have what? 6 more weeks left?
Until September 21st, however many weeks that is.
Exactly. Till September 21st. And I hope to see you then. Bye-bye.